Hey guys, so today I'm here with my friend there. I'm pointing the right way. There we go. So my friend Matt, say hi, Matt.
Hello.
He has a YouTube channel where he's basically me, but he does books. And today we are talking about Dune, or as other people would call it, Dune Part One. And I brought him on here to kind of fill in the blanks of like, because he's read the book Dune. I haven't read the book. I haven't seen the other film adaptation. So, I mean, let's start with some of your general thoughts, and then I'll get into my experience with Dune Part One.
So, interestingly enough, I saw the film before I ever read the book. So, the film is actually what got me into the book. And so I was like,
Oh, that's cool.
I gotta check
Okay.
this out. That was my first impression.
So let me give some of my background with this film because this isn't the first time I've seen this film. And I remember the first time I watched it, it was when Warner Brothers was doing that like same day release thing, which was kind of stupid, where they would put a film in the theaters and then at the same time it would be released on HBO Max. Now I'm glad they got rid of that because some films are clearly meant to be seen in the theater on the big screen. But anyway, I I was kind of stupid when I was watching the first Dune, and I just watched it at home, where I was sitting in a very bright living room. But on top of that, like I feel like my expectations weren't quite right with the film because I kind of expected it to be something more akin to probably Avatar, though hopefully a bit better than Avatar. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I expected more of like a sci-fi action blockbuster type experience. The film wasn't that. I didn't realize until later that as I thought about it and I've seen it again, that Denis Villeneuve actually was giving me something way better than that. Nevertheless, I watched it that first time and I didn't quite get into it. I was looking at everyone loved it, and it was kind of one of those alienating experiences. But from those experiences, I can often go back and rewatch a film, maybe appreciate some of its elements, but also at the same time, I acknowledge that I didn't watch this film with the proper mindset. So that was my main thing going back and rewatching it. And as a matter of fact, when Black Friday came along, I got this. So I wanted to see it in the best format that I could. And I gotta say, I rewatched it this time and I was completely immersed in the experience from start to finish to the point where I usually write down notes as I'm watching a film. I didn't do that with this film. I had to wait until the credits came on and then I could go into my phone and like type out brief stuff. That rarely happens for me. I still might prefer Blade Runner 2049 just a bit more. It might be a nudge higher than Dune as far as Denis Villeneuve's films, but it's pretty damn close. I mean, this film was a visual marvel, a technical marvel in pretty much every aspect.
Yeah, well, of course, it took me a couple times to get into the book because wasn't really like anything I was expecting. The writing style was very odd. It
Hmm.
jumped around a lot. Jumped around. I should have said shifting POVs. So
Hmm.
that was a bit jarring, and it took some time getting used to. But once I did, I really enjoyed the story. I think one of the best parts of the book is the dialogue, and I think the movie does a good job including some of it. And then there's some parts I'm like, I think it could have been changed for the book, but that's just my opinion.
One of my college professors, he hasn't seen the movie, by the way, but he's read the book. I'm paraphrasing what he said. He said something like, the book is filled with so much rich detail that no film would ever be able to do it justice. And I mean, you can pretty much say that about any book being turned into a film. So, I mean, a film is always going to have that against it if you're really comparing it that harshly to the book. But as far as this movie, if there was or like more going on, that actually would have been an issue. Because Denis Villeneuve, despite being a fantastic director, he's also a really good writer. With this film, he hit a balance where it introduces you to this large world. It does excellent world building and introduces you to all these different characters, but it never felt like too much. It never felt like it was going somewhere that really didn't serve the important plot of this part. Had me hooked the entire time.
I will say that I think the one of the few things that the movie does better than the book is characterization of these characters. For example, Duncan Idaho in the book, he has a very reduced role. I mean, read interviews where we like I think it was for the second book where he's told like Duncan Idle's a fan favorite character, but I never really got that sense because he's not in the first book a whole lot like he is in the first movie. He's given a lot more personality in the movie.
Getting Jason Momoa, I mean, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is definitely one of my favorite characters.
Hey, you. Want some muscle?
I did?
No.
And going more to like the performances of these actors, which are all across the board incredible, across the board star-studded casts, they managed to give these subtle performances. It's all very calm, and that really, again, it fits with the tone of this film, that this isn't some action blockbuster where everything is going to be 100% all the time. I mean, you can relate to a lot of the characters in this film. The growing up, coming of age journey that Paul Atreides goes on. You have a great actor, a great upcoming actor, such as Timothy Chalamet, knocks it out of the park. And it's this storyline, this character that you've seen many other times, but he does his own spin of it, and he's now an icon of this decade.
Going off the hero's journey, Frank Herbert completely kind of flips it on its head where Frank Herbert was kind of trying to turn him into a kind of a villain, kind of like the main message was never trust charismatic leaders. The first one was kind of a setup where Dune Messiah, you really get to see the very cynical take that Frank Herbert had with this trope. Yeah,
that's interesting. Denis Villeneuve, he's just doing a trilogy of Dune films. Like he has part one, and now he's releasing part two, and then later on he wants to do his version of Dune Messiah. Apparently, that's where he's going to cut it off, and then he's going to do some other stuff. It'll be interesting to see how he incorporates those elements from Frank Herbert. But yes, what did you think about Oscar Isaac?
All the cast did a good job. I can't really say that one actor is that specific character like I can for Lord of the Rings, but I think he did a pretty good job. I mean, again, I don't see him as that definitive character, but yeah, I think he did a pretty good job with that role.
For me, like going back to the subtleties that I was talking about with these performances with these characters, that he's very subtle, very stoic, but there's also like a lot of warmth to him.
And if your answer is no, you'll still be the only thing I ever needed you to be. My son.
I don't know. I was it was kind of a hit when he died in this film, especially that he died not being able to actually kill the Baron, which I was so invested in that character, and then he just dies on us. So
yeah, speaking of the Baron, by the way, I think Stellan Skarsgård did a fantastic job.
Yes. Yeah.
But in the book, I always got the sense he was a lot more hot-tempered, where here he was completely just sociopathic. Like
I said I'd set her free. That you could join her. So join her.
And it was awesome, but pretty different from his book counterpart. There is some backstory, so I hope anybody watching who's read the book, or you haven't, spoilers, but the backstory for the Baron, if I do remember it right, was he was injected with some poison which made him obese.
Wow.
I can't really remember it right because it's just so oof. This is some bizarre backstory.
That is pretty weird, I gotta say.
So, and of course, he's so fat that he can't walk, so he has to have those suspenders.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I can probably see why they didn't mention that in the film. It would have broken the tone completely. But yeah, definitely, Stellan Skarsgård was great in this film. Especially that moment where he's just like floating at that guy while he's chewing stuff. And a pretty great villain, I gotta say. Like just on a visual level, this film. I mean, Arrakis was incredible. How they brought that to life in this film. Watching this film, the experience of it did remind me of watching Blade Runner 2049, which was also a pretty long movie. It was actually longer than Dune Part One, but this director, he manages to craft these films that are so visually remarkable. Going back to just the pacing of these films, that even if you've been sitting in your seat for a while watching this, you really can't take your eyes off. Like it's all so mesmerizing to watch. They really knocked it out of the park when it came to the sets, the costumes. I was watching a video in one of my college classes where they were discussing how they created all the Foley and the sound effects to kind of enhance the atmosphere of the world. Absolute technical marvel. You know, sometimes you say that, but then the characters and the writing aren't as good. But those were, I would say, equally as good.
Well, I have to say it is a pretty incredibly loyal adaptation. Not quite Lord of the Rings. Well, we haven't gotten the other two parts yet, but I wouldn't say quite Fellowship of the Ring adaptation level, but I do think it is a very good adaptation. So, yeah.
Like I've said before, I absolutely love this film. I think on a technical level, on a story level, pretty much every level, it is masterful filmmaking that I'm crossing my fingers so hard that Dune Part Two is as good as all the promise that has been set up by this film. And just honestly, I can't think of any other grade to give Dune Part One other than an A plus. Guys, make sure to stick around. If you like this content, we'll be posting an initial reaction short once we go see Dune Part 2 this Thursday. But also, guys, make sure to check out my other videos. I've recently reviewed the new Mean Girls. I've reviewed Argyle. I've done a review for Blade Runner 2049 if you guys are interested in that. Also, make sure to check out Matt's YouTube channel called Matthew Hirning. He's actually done a book review of Dune, and Dune Messiah. Did you do Children of Dune as well? I forget.
Yeah, I'm still reading that one.
Okay. And guys, as always, have a great day, and thanks, Matt, for being part of this video.
Anytime.